They say when power changes hands, the room feels it before anyone speaks. That morning, you could taste the tension in the air sharp, like metal in your mouth. When Cole Maddox walked into the boardroom for the first time as CEO, he didn't look around. He moved like the hallway owed him something, shaking hands with quick, firm squeezes, dropping jokes that got nervous chuckles. And when he passed me, it was like I didn't exist. He didn't even slow down. My hand was out. He glanced at it like it was an accident. Then his voice came low, walking past. "We don't shake hands with people who won't be here much longer." My ears rang. A few people laughed, soft, confused, obedient. No one said my name. No one had to. I was the target. I was Evelyn Hart. I had held that room together for 12 years. Quietly. Reliably. Through crashes, pivots, buyouts, and risks that could have sunk the company. But Cole? He was here for the spotlight, not the scaffolding. Before I go on, please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. Let's keep going. Cole took his place at the head of the table, still standing. His voice had the kind of rehearsed calm that came from a mirror and a PR coach. "Let's be efficient," he said. "We're introducing a new leadership culture." Then he looked straight at me. Eyes like frosted glass. "That means removing legacy roles that no longer align with where we're going." His tone was casual, like reading out a canceled lunch. "Evelyn Hart. Effective immediately. No explanation. No thank you. No review. Just silence." Applause. And my breath, caught somewhere between disbelief and rage. He kept talking, words like agility, clarity, moving without sentiment. All the euphemisms people use when they want cruelty to sound like strategy. The head of HR was already flipping through a packet beside him. I watched her fingers land exactly where they'd planned. I didn't flinch. I didn't interrupt. When men like Cole put on a show of power, the worst thing you can do is feed it. He wanted a reaction. I gave him stillness. But then I turned. Not to him, to HR, calm, crisp. "Can you clarify for the record?" I said. "When does the termination become legally effective?" The whole room shifted. Pens froze. Chairs stopped creaking. Cole smiled again, thinner this time. "Now, I'll need the exact language," I replied. "And the timestamp." For just a fraction of a second, his confidence blinked. "You wouldn't notice unless you'd lived your life watching power show its cracks." I did. That slap of shame had already landed, but what came next? That didn't happen in that room. It started after. Take a breath with me. If you've ever sat in a room that decided your future without knowing your worth, I want you to hold on to that feeling. You're not invisible. You're not done. Because this story? Oh, it's just beginning. After the noise faded and the meeting ended, I sat alone, staring at nothing until a detail from years ago surfaced, quiet but sharp enough to cut through the fog. And once I remembered what it meant, everything changed. After the meeting, the noise vanished. The applause, the fake smiles, the echo of Cole's voice gone. But something heavier stayed behind, thick in the air like humidity before a storm. I stayed in my chair, still and silent. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't hitch. But inside me, something uncoiled. Not fury, not yet. Just memory. Sharp and specific. It came back all at once, nights where I stayed past midnight correcting the math in other people's projections. The quiet edits I made that saved millions. The crisis calls where I calmly solved problems people above me didn't even know existed. No one cheered then. But the company kept standing. I thought that was enough. Cole Maddox didn't know any of that. He didn't care. He inherited a working machine and called it progress. He gave interviews. I gave approvals. He walked red carpets of praise. I walked contracts through fire. He didn't even know who he fired. Not really. He saw a name, a number, a salary, but not the lever. I opened my laptop. Not out of panic, just habit. My inbox was already being wiped by HR, but a keyword search brought something up I hadn't seen in years. An old email chain. Archived. Forgotten by most. But not by me. The subject line? Boring. The content? Devastating. A formal document from a Capital review round years ago, when speed was essential and trust was fragile. The board had insisted on a single point of authorization for capital disbursement. No bottlenecks. No committees. Just one signature. One. Mine. And it had never been revoked. I read it 3 times slowly, clause after clause confirming it. My signature still held. My authority had never been stripped. Cole had fired me, but he hadn't disabled the system I was wired into. The pressure in my chest didn't feel like panic anymore. It felt like steel. If you've ever been underestimated, if someone once tried to erase your years with a sentence, I want you to sit with this moment. Let it burn clean through the shame. You're more than what they say you are. You know what you carry. The funny thing about power? It doesn't need to shout. It just needs the right moment to whisper. And the moment was coming. Because while Cole celebrated, the very system he relied on still had my name on it. I didn't tell anyone. Not HR. Not legal. Not the friend who texted me, "Are you okay?" with a sad emoji like that would fix the humiliation still humming in my skin. I didn't respond. I didn't cry. I planned. Because I remembered something else, a clause I fought to include, years ago, back when no one wanted to slow down enough to read the fine print. During a high-stakes financing round, legal had argued for clarity. Marketing had argued for speed. I had argued for something in between, control. The clause was short, tucked in the middle of the appendix. It read like legalese unless you understood what it meant. It allowed capital to be withdrawn fully, immediately, if a senior executive's conduct caused material harm to institutional trust. No warning. No discussion. Just gone. And I was the one who could pull that trigger. Cole's name wasn't on the clause. Mine was. He had walked into that room with swagger, playing the role of a man in control, not realizing he'd just fired the only person keeping the capital tethered in place. He thought he removed a liability. He didn't realize he erased the barrier between him and a free fall. I opened the folder. Read every line of that clause like scripture. No emotion. No vengeance. Just clarity. Then I played the recording. Yes, it was all recorded. Cole knew that. Every executive meeting was logged for compliance. But men like him assume rules exist for others, not for themselves. There it was, his voice, clear and arrogant. We don't shake hands with people who won't be here much longer. The chuckles. The awkward silence. The way he enjoyed it. And the words that followed, Evelyn Hart. Effective immediately. I timestamped it. Logged the language. Noted the witness list. Saved it all in a folder named Conduct Clause Activation. And then I did the most dangerous thing a person can do when they've been humiliated. I waited. Can you feel that moment? That stillness before the decision? If you've ever sat with rage and turned it into discipline, if you've ever been told you're done and quietly reached for the truth they forgot you held, this part is for you. The trigger was ready. The clause was valid. And the call I made next didn't come with anger. It came with precision. What happened after that? Let's just say, Cole Maddox never saw it coming. I waited until the building was quiet. Not empty, just still enough that no one expected anything to move. That's when real shifts happen. Not with fireworks, but with silence. I sat at the edge of my bed, laptop open, phone face down. Documents filled the screen, clean, aligned, complete. I reread every line. Not out of doubt, but because precision matters when consequences are permanent. Everything was in order. My authority, confirmed. The clause, valid. The conduct, documented. The timestamp, indisputable. I turned my phone over and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. It rang once. Yes, the voice answered, clipped, professional. Execute the withdrawal, I said. Full amount. Effective immediately. There was a pause. Just a breath. Then, confirmed. Reason code, documented conduct during negotiations. That was it. No back and forth. No bargaining. Just system response. No one was being punished. A condition had been met. And when capital loses confidence, it doesn't argue. It moves. I closed the laptop. I didn't exhale dramatically or stare out a window like in a movie. I went to the sink and washed my hands. They didn't shake. They were steady. It felt normal. Not because it wasn't monumental, but because it had been earned long before tonight. When no one was watching. When no one cared who stayed late or who caught the error before it became a headline. My work had always been invisible. But this was impact. Minutes later, my phone vibrated. Then again. I didn't look. I already knew. By midnight, the funds were gone. Not delayed. Not paused. Withdrawn. Cleanly. Completely. Cole Maddox didn't know it yet, but by the time his alarm rang, the company's projections would be meaningless. The number they were banking on would be absent, and so would their story. He thought firing me was the end. He didn't know it was a release. If you've ever had someone take credit for what you built, then push you out without looking back, remember this part. Because the system will remember what they forget, and when the time is right, it answers with silence. Cole walked into the office the next morning like he owned it. By the time he reached his desk, phones were ringing, meetings were canceled, and $2.1 billion was gone. What happened next? You won't believe how fast the collapse came, or who called me next. Cole Maddox walked into the office that morning like nothing had happened. His suit was sharp. His stride relaxed. The kind of confidence that comes from believing yesterday was the hard part. He greeted assistants by name, nodded at managers, and moved straight toward his glass office, as if the building itself belonged to him. The first call came before he set his bag down. He waved it off with a smile. Let it ring. The second call came immediately after. Then a third. This time, he answered. I wasn't there to see his face change, but I could picture it perfectly. That tight pause, that subtle stiffening around the eyes. The moment confidence meets information it can't outrun. By mid-morning, doors were closing. Legal sessions convened without notice. Finance stopped sending updates and started asking questions that should never need asking. Calendars emptied themselves. Meetings disappeared without explanation. Then the number surfaced. $2.1 billion. Not delayed. Not reassigned. Gone. No error. No glitch. Just absence. The kind that makes projections unravel like cheap thread. Analysts connected dots faster than leadership could speak. The market doesn't wait for reassurance. It reacts. Cole tried to call it temporary. Correctable. But every conversation narrowed his options. Somewhere between the third briefing and the fourth, understanding arrived, sharp enough to hurt. This wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. By noon, he wasn't leading anymore. He was being measured. When his name appeared on my phone, I knew the performance was over. His voice was smooth. Careful. Almost friendly. Let's talk, he said. He offered everything. Consulting roles. Public praise. A generous transition. He spoke quickly, like urgency might outrun consequence. When he finished, I asked him to put it in writing. That's when his tone hardened. You can't just pull money like that, he said. There are consequences. I answered calmly, dates, clauses, language he never bothered to read. Silence. Then anger. Then blame. If you hadn't reacted. I waited until he finished. Your conduct triggered the clause, I said. Nothing else. That was the moment he realized this wasn't personal. It was procedural. The board convened without him. The recording played. His voice filled the room, confident, dismissive, documented. Laughter followed by discomfort. One director leaned forward. Someone else asked why no one intervened. No one answered. They didn't debate tone. They assessed exposure. By evening, his authority was frozen. By the next day, his name disappeared from statements. Interim leadership replaced it quietly. No announcement. Just subtraction. He still sat in the office for a while, lights on, calendar empty. A man with a title no longer connected to anything. When the final vote came, it arrived without drama. No speeches. No outrage. Just procedure. Cole Maddox was removed the same way he fired me, efficiently. They called me afterward. They offered everything back. More, even. Authority. Apologies. Titles that suddenly mattered. I listened. Then I declined. Not out of pride. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. Returning would have turned consequence into negotiation. And that would have cheapened the lesson. I set the phone down and felt something settle. Not triumph, not relief. Alignment. And right here, if this story touched something in you, I want to pause. Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. I didn't announce my next step. I simply took it. Quietly. Deliberately. I moved toward work that respected preparation over noise, contracts over bravado, dignity over ego. No shortcuts disguised as confidence. No rooms where volume replaced substance. Looking back, this was never about Cole. It was about structure. Real power doesn't perform. It doesn't raise its voice. It sits in systems, in records, in clauses people skip because they think they'll never need them. And when it moves, it doesn't ask permission. Respect works the same way. You pay it up front or later with interest. The system remembered what he forgot. And it enforced it without mercy, without celebration, without pause. That's the kind of justice that lasts. And if you stayed till the end, thank you. Your presence here means this story traveled farther than that boardroom ever did.